Mr. Marcus Philly. I appreciate you being here today.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate being here as well.
So, I thought we'd get started here with a question I always ask to start, which is what's one concept, one idea, something that's had the biggest impact on you?
Relevant to health and fitness or just anything in life?
Take it in whichever direction you want.
Sure. I think with health and fitness, it's, and this is probably true for lots of aspects of life, all good things take time, a lot of time, way more time than you want them to take. And that our time horizon, if we can adjust, adapt, and be more fluid with it and extend those, we all stand to have, much better outcomes in life and potentially enjoy the process more.
That's beautiful. I think it's something we all need to hear, especially right now. I have a lot of friends who um, are starting to get into fitness and bodybuilding, and they see the results that I've gotten or other people have gotten, and they don't realize that that's like a 10-year journey,
Yeah.
and they want those results in 6 months, but it's a long game, and it takes a while to get that desired outcome.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and it's sort of like a culture. There's a shift happening certainly in the culture uh right now, and younger generations, and I mean everybody. It's no one's kind of protected from this, but the way that technology moves and the way that we consume information, and um, things are speeding up. And so when things speed up around us, it's it has an impact on our internal expectations of how things should happen. Like, well, they in the span of 2 weeks, like, so much changed around me. Why can't if that should be happening to me inside my body? And physiology and the way our bodies adapt and overcome things, uh, adapt to stress. That is not a that's not a we're not on the same trajectory as modern day technology. Like, our bodies are not adapting anywhere near the rate that this exponential growth curve is happening in technology and happening in society in many regards. So I think it's something that people are going to become there. It's already hard for people. It's going to be even harder. This, like, concept of, oh, I just want a pill to fix things. Like, people want a pill to fix things because there's this expectation that the solution should be easy or should be faster than it actually is. And if we've had a hard time with that in the past, it's only going to get harder as we start to see, like, well, they solved this major technological problem in a matter of 6 months. Like, why can't I lose my love handles faster? There should be a quick solution. Um, and then to add to that, you know, biotech is also going to speed up in its development, and there may very well be some a growing number of solutions in quotes that get people fast results. But I just think there's a fundamental problem with, like, hey, a fast result likely is going to come with some side effects or some problems.
There's unintended consequences with everything.
Yep.
It's so crazy the direction all that stuff's heading in. I was listening to a podcast the other day with like a next generation biohacking type of doctor out of Dubai who's doing like gene therapy.
Yes.
Um, and I think what they're doing is um, inhibiting some type of gene that limits muscle building. I think it's like myostatin or something
Yeah.
like that.
Mm-hmm.
And these people are getting these crazy, crazy muscle building results by just taking this pill. Um,
Wow.
and it's like I wonder how long until like a nice physique is not even a status symbol anymore, just because it's
Mm-hmm.
so quote unquote easy to attain through a pill or injection or whatever it may be.
Yeah. I don't think it's I mean, I think you're already seeing glimpses of that with, pharmaceutical grade, performance enhancing drugs. Like, right, people are getting more access to higher or high quality PEDs and, hormones. And a lot of people are able to build, shockingly impressive physiques very relatively quickly, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, this physique naturally might take 10 years to build. This person got it in 2 to 3 years, right? And then, if we've shrunk that down in the past couple decades or in the last decade, then, what does another decade look like, or another 2 decades look like, where, teenager comes to the gym in 2044 and they're like, "Hey, I want to start lifting." It's like, "Okay, well, come over here. Let me like take this, take this, take this. Like, start your training." And you know, within 6 months, they're like hulking out. Like, I don't know. Like, I mean, like I said, there's gonna be tools and strategies and things that technology makes possible, but like our physiology again, like fundamentally has not is not going to evolve in 20 years to be able to handle that kind of, accelerated growth. Like there's going to be some consequence that happens, I would foresee. But hey, again, back to the original questions, like the good things that just take time, and w- with, with health and fitness, there's always going to be a vanity part of this where people are like, I want to look a particular way. Um, but the other values that you get from living a consistent healthy lifestyle with good nutrition, quality sleep, good movement, resistance training, all the things that I preach and many other fitness professionals preach, you know you gain things that are not just vanity. Like you gain there's health markers, of course, we could talk about, but there's confidence that comes from doing work. There's resilience. There's um, you know other character traits that I don't. It's hard to, you can't replace with without doing the work. Um, I just recently today I got sent a video by one of my followers on Instagram. They sent me a video. This was 2016. This video got published. It was a YouTube recap of the 2016 Northern California, or excuse me, California men's regional competition in CrossFit. So I competed in CrossFit, and they'd film these documentary type videos that would like showcase like the behind the scenes of the competition, and it was just one of the best videos like I think I'd ever got produced. And I happened to be one of the competitors. I did well that weekend, and so I got a lot of airtime on this 2 hour video. But I was watching myself in the video and I was like, this is 7 years ago. I was a very different person back then, as an athlete and what I was doing and what my focus was in life. Like I didn't have kids. You know, I just gotten married. Like I was at the peak of my athletic career. I was 15 pounds heavier, pretty much all muscle. Like I was doing crazy fit stuff, out there on the competition floor. And I was just like, I could just see like this confidence in this like person that was there. That was like, this was the culmination of an 8 year career in a rigorous sport. And I was like, that was me at my peak, at my best. Like there was so much happening in that behind the scenes of that person, that human, that were the culmination of just such almost a decade of focus on a sport. And I'm like, I can't even, like, I almost can't even replicate that because I don't put in that kind of effort anymore in that way in my life. Um, I put effort in other places in my life now. Like my focus has changed, but it was just I got like I kind of got the chills watching. I was like, holy shit, look at that guy! Like I can't believe what you were able to accomplish, and the result, like the the result of just so much consistency and hard work and and commitment that yeah, it meant more than just the fact that I could snatch 265 pounds at the end of a hard, workout. It was the in between. It was talking to me off camera. It was, wow, look at that. Like
Mhm.
that's an incredible thing. And I don't, many people don't even see that. They will never get to experience that. And unfortunately, in the way that the fitness industry might be moving, or the fitness, medical, biohacking community might be moving, we might strip people the opportunity of ever experiencing something like that, because there'll be ways to kind of get to those outcomes physically, aesthetically, faster without putting in the same dedication and work, possibly.
There will always be some sort of inherent aura or something that comes alongside suffering and really just focused effort at towards a goal for a long period of time, because inherently like that process just changes you as a person. You like just you see it for everybody who starts going to the gym consistently. Their entire personality, their confidence, there's just an inherent change that happens within you that is not entirely connected to just how your physique looks. It's like all those hours and that work you put in the gym and in the kitchen. It's like it all culminates to a certain aura that you just develop.
No doubt. Yeah. And I want that for people more than I want the abs or the biceps or the whatever.
And that's what
It's,
people need more than the
I
abs and
mean,
the
yeah,
biceps.
they don't, many people don't even know that that's what they need. I mean, they actually, I think they could understand it, and they can conceptualize that pretty easily. It's like, what do hey, what do you want? What are your goals? Like, oh, I want to get in shape. Okay, what does being in shape mean? Oh, it means, dropping 10 pounds. Okay, when you drop 10 pounds, like, what's that going to give you? I'm going to fit in my clothes better. Okay, when you fit in your clothes better, like, what is that going to mean? Well, I'm going to look good when I'm at the office or when I'm out with my friends. And okay, and then how does that make you feel? It's like, well, it makes me feel more confident. It makes me feel, it's like, okay, so what we're after here is you want to build your confidence up, because if you build your confidence up, what happens then? It's like, oh, I think people respect me more, and then I could finally find this, the romantic partner that I want. It's like, okay, now, so guess what? You get all that when you put yourself first and you do the hard work and you're disciplined in the kitchen, because every time you hit the gym and you're disciplined, you're basically telling yourself that you're the most important person, and you'll do whatever it takes to become the confident human that you deserve to be. And once you've done that, people see it and they're like, oh, hell yeah. I remember, actually, it was so funny. Like, I was in a pretty big bodybuilding phase in college, and I was going to apply to medical school. I mean, I went to medical school, but I applied to medical school, and I remember I was like, God, I had this, I was really into my training at the time. I was in that phase of like discovering, for one of the first times in my life, like how I could just put all the pieces together with training, nutrition, discipline, and just like create this level of confidence. And I remember saying to my like roommate, who like didn't get it, was kind of living a different lifestyle. We weren't, he wasn't my training partner or anything like that. I was like, God, when I show up in that interview and I'm just like, just jacked, and like I fit out, like, I fill out my suit coat really well. Like, these people are just going to be like, this guy means business.
Oh
Like, we're
yeah.
letting this guy into medicals. Like, he's the real deal, because I got the grades, I got the scores, but I'm showing up and they're going to see me as like this confident, like, you know, built guy who like obviously works his ass off. And my like roommate was like, "What the fuck are you talking about? Like, you're just a meathead." Like, but there's something to that, and
Totally.
I see it in like some of these, social media. I don't even call them influencers. There's this one guy. I don't even know his name. He's like a sales guy, runs these sales training programs, and I've seen some of his content. And he's like, if you don't have a six pack, you don't work for me. It's like, what, he's got the guy like at one of his trainings who's up, and he's like kind of grilling him, and they're doing little mock sales things, and the guy's a little overweight and out of shape, and he's like, hey, take your shirt off right now. And the guy's like, all right. He like takes his shirt off. He's got, a little bit of a dad bod, got a little belly. And he's like, how's it feel to be up there right now? He's like, I don't know. I feel like shit. He's like, yeah, you look like, he's like really harsh on the guy, and not the kind of content and not the kind of message I support, but it's this like, you gotta like, he's coming at it from the wrong way, but it's like when you work on yourself and you build the confidence and you're like dedicated in these ways, like you show up differently,
Mhm.
you know? And I don't, I'm not saying that like you got to be ripped to be a confident human being. I really don't think that. Like, I really don't think that a six pack abs are what people should strive for. I think it's just, that's kind of bullshit. I think what people should strive for is building a level of discipline and consistency around their health and wellness that feeds them the confidence. Like, you can have, 20% body fat and be strong and be disciplined and make good choices most of the time and train hard and build muscle and feel confident as hell. Like, it doesn't come when you magically like drop below 10% body fat, you suddenly become this confident human. It's like, no, it comes from doing the work. It comes
Mhm.
from just being dedicated. Whereas somebody's like, I'm going to go get on these pills, I'm going to take these injections, and I'm going to go on this drug to make me lose a bunch of weight, and then I'm going to be confident because I'm going to look a certain way. But you might not even experience that because you didn't actually do the thing repeatedly that gave you that, character
Yeah.
trait.
And I wonder if it would even be worse for people. I know you see people who come fast into like winning the lottery or becoming famous super quickly. And there's almost like this feeling within you that you don't deserve it. So you begin to like self sabotage in
Mm-hmm.
ways. And I'm sure that's probably going to be the same thing as these things just advance and get better and stronger. It's like that human nature. We almost feel like we need to work hard at something, and if we don't and we still achieve that thing, there's like this inherent need to sabotage it.
Yeah, that it's the faster you lose it, the harder it is to keep it off.
Mm,
The quicker you grow it, the harder it is to save it and to sustain it. And that's been true in every part of my life. And as a parent, I think parents out there understand this. It's like, you know, there's there's probably nothing quite like going from not being a parent to being a parent. Like, your first child, you went from, I mean, overnight or in an instant, you literally have a human life that you now have to figure out what to do with. Like, that is, and when something changes that dramatically, that quickly, it is massively stressful. It's like, and anyway, I think it just speaks to like big change quickly is very hard in either direction. Somebody would say like, well, the argument is like, if I won the lottery, like, well, it wouldn't be that hard. Like, tomorrow I'd be pretty fucking stoked. It's like, yeah, I get it. And then, but there's a lag time on like where the challenges might show up, you know?
that is for sure. So for that person who's looking to get right, get either back into shape, or they just want to start optimizing things more, and know it's a new year, which is why I'm asking this question.
Yeah.
But what do you think some of the biggest levers are for those people in the gym, diet wise? What are those things that really going to have that outsized return?
Yeah. There's a few key areas. I think we could start with, we'll start with training because I think people, you know me for training, or that's sort of something that I've been doing for years. But um, absolutely, it is resistance training is where you're going to get an outsized return. So I think there's an understanding that, you know, hey, I got to move, I got to train, I got to exercise if I want to, make some positive impacts on my health. But the mistake a lot of people have made is thinking about movement as like the purpose of movement is to increase expenditure of energy or burn calories, right? Your exercise and your training is not about, it should never be thought of as burning calories. If you're like, I got to go and burn calories, then you're going about things the wrong way. And here's why. In a given day, somebody will burn, you know, a certain amount of calories. The percentage of calories that any average person burns from their exercise is usually 10, maybe 15% of their total daily calorie burn. So that is a small lever to pull for in terms of changing your energy output or your energy equation. Instead, the purpose of training should be about building muscle. Strength, muscle, perhaps function should be thrown in there, but most people, it's just go and build some muscle. Because once you build muscle, your energy expenditure on a daily basis at a baseline goes up. So,
Significantly.
so, so yeah, relatively significantly. I mean, it's not like you're going to go from burning 2,000 calories to 3,000 calories because you have a little bit more muscle, but those calories that you burn at rest compound, or not, like they happen every day. So it's like if you've got more muscle and you're burning an extra 200 calories a day just at rest because you have more muscle. More muscle means a bigger metabolic engine. Your metabolism is burning higher, right? Metabolism is essentially just, it's almost like a one-to-one relationship to how much muscle you have, more or less. I mean, it's oversimplified, but it's a good way for the audience to think about it. So training should be about building muscle. And therefore, the best way to build muscle is through resistance training. It's not through boot camp. It's not through CrossFit. It's not through, running a marathon. Like, yeah, are there people who are runners that have muscular legs? Sure. But, take the amount of time someone spends running for marathon training and you apply that to a resistance training program, you're going to build a lot more muscle.
Mm-hmm.
If anyone's listening who's like, I don't want to be bulky, I don't want to be a bodybuilder, that's okay. Like, understandable. I've been lifting weights for, 25 years, and I only weigh 180 pounds. I'm muscular. Nobody ever stops me like, are you a bodybuilder? Like, and I'm trying to get big. Like, in order to be a bodybuilder that people see and they're like, damn, you're a bodybuilder, you've got to be absolute training savage and probably taking,
Yep.
some exogenous hormones. So that's not going to happen. But you should get in the gym. You should resistance train. If you're training 3 days a week or less, every time you're in the gym, it should be a full body training session. You should be doing every muscle group, head to toe. So a squat, a press, a pulling exercise, a hinging exercise, some isolation work, cover the whole body. That is absolutely the way to go. If you're going to train 4 days or 5 days a week, you can do, different type of training splits like push pull legs or upper lower type of things because you're going more frequently. But if you're going 3 days a week or less, full body, get in, work hard, lift close to failure, do it safely. If you don't know how to lift yet, get on machines, get on things that are just a little bit more stable and safe. um, so that's the first. Then the second thing, now that we've discussed training, is movement. So movement is not the same as training and exercise. This is just you getting out of a sitting position more often. So this is the walking. This is like getting your steps in every day. It's so interesting when most people actually look at their step count each day and they uncover just how little they're actually moving, or get an objective measurement of how much they're moving. This is something that our society, our culture, our way of living in most instances, at least in Western society, has absolutely put people into more sedentary states. We just don't get up and move enough. And it's not going to get better anytime soon. We're not going to suddenly drive less, commute more by foot, move into, more communities where things are accessible, and you walk to the store, and like, people are getting more spread out, more isolated, more sedentary, more work from home, less driving to the office, less commuting to the office, less walking up and down the stairs, less, getting up at the office and going and talking to people. And, it's just sitting, sitting, sitting. And so we actually have to start to take a measurable approach to combating that problem. And the best way is just to look at your step count every day and to be intentional about raising it. So there's no right amount of steps to take. It's what's my current step amount, and how how can I improve that or increase that by a small margin. That's it. So if you get a step tracker, and that could be like a pedometer that you buy on Amazon. It could be your phone, as long as you have it with you at all times. I like to have a watch that has a step tracker on it. Just wear it for a few days. How many steps did I take in the last few days? Just living my normal everyday life. Okay, I walked 4,000 steps on average. Great. Let's bump that up to 6. What is that going to take? 2 10-minute intentional walks on top of your normal daily activity. Or, maybe you go for a 30-minute walk in the morning as soon as you get up. Or maybe every time you get up to go to the bathroom during the day, you walk to the bathroom that is on the other side of the building, or it's parking, an extra 4 blocks from work or the school or whatever, right? You come up with strategies. So full body resistance training, you got to train to build muscle. Number 2, you got to move a little bit more, and that's steps. Number 3, we'll get into talking about nutrition. And for nutrition, there's really 2 pillars that I like people to focus on. But number 1 supports the first thing we talked about, which is building muscle, and that is just focusing on getting more protein in your diet. It's talked about so much that I think people are becoming numb to just how powerful that is. They're like, oh, I've heard the protein thing. I heard the protein thing. If you're not actually eating a gram of protein per pound of body weight every day, then you haven't heard it enough, or you heard it too much and you became numb to the power of this thing. It is so important. It is the easiest tool that you have at your disposal to optimize your muscle mass. That's why we eat it, is to optimize your muscle mass so that we can build the metabolism we talked about earlier. It is also the easiest thing you have access to impact how full you feel. Nutrition, diets, everybody is playing the same game. How do I eat so that I can feel full with fewer calories? That's it. Humans all eat until we're full. We all do it. If you do it with these types of foods over on my right hand, you do it with this many calories. But if you eat it with these types of foods, if you eat till you're full, you're going to get twice as many calories. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
If I eat a bowl of cereal and uh, a donut, I'm going to need 3 giant bowls and 2 donuts to feel full. If I eat 3 bowls of broccoli, chicken breast, and a big white potato, I'm going to get to feeling full with about a third the amount of calories. And that's it. It's like you got to eat plenty of protein, and we have to generally select foods that fill us up without as much energy. And that's going to come in the, you know, fruits, vegetables, things like that are high volume foods, typically any food that has a lot of fiber in it. And so I'm a big proponent of like focus on your protein and focus on getting more fiber. If you can do those two things, you are probably going to make a dramatic impact on your health, body composition, muscle mass. So that's a super simple thing. I hope that was. I didn't. I mean, I mentioned calories, but like, I don't need you to count calories. I need you to count how much protein you're getting, and I need you to start aiming to get above 30 grams of fiber every day. And that might mean looking at a label and being like, how much fiber is it? Okay, I got to eat some of that, right? I aim for 60 to 75 grams of fiber. Many days I'm getting close to 100, and I eat 200 plus grams of protein every day, and it is not hard to eat in a way that makes me feel great and look great and be healthy if you do those things.
Lift weights, walk, get enough protein, get some fiber in.
And then the last one is, it's the best way to describe this or to say it, to label it. It's become a consistent, but build better sleep consistency. So this, and here's like, people, the quantity and the quality of your sleep matter dramatically on your health. But how do we get people to actually understand that? Well, we have to connect it to something that they're like, oh, that is tangible. And the evidence really speaks very powerfully to sleep deprivation and our appetite/weight gain. I was listening to a sleep scientist on a podcast recently. It was like, well, this is probably the most, like the most closely correlated phenomenon that they see in all of sleep science, is that when you deprive people of sleep, we see impacts to their appetite regulation, like, directly. Sleep science has been going on for decades, and there's a lot of unknown stuff there that they don't understand. This is something that they understand clearly. If you reduce someone's sleep below that 6-hour mark, their appetite, like the hunger hormone, goes up. The satiety, or I feel full hormone, goes down. They increase the number of calories that they're eating, and their cravings or their desire for foods that are more of those like high energy, high calorie dense foods like breads, pastas, cereals, cakes, cookies, things like that, goes up substantially. So those factors all together, you're sleep deprived, you're going to eat more. Not to mention the impacts that it has on, mental health, cognitive function, and many, many more things. But so we know that has to change. Well, what's the first step to changing that? And in my opinion, it is creating consistency in your sleep, which is go to bed and wake up at the same time 7 days a week. There's no weekend. There's no sleeping in. There's no, I'm going to pull an all-nighter. It's, you go to bed at this time and you wake up at this time. And I don't care what that time frame is for you when you start. I think most people have inconsistent sleep schedules, and that is that is the first thing to sort of correct for. Did you, I went to bed at 10, I woke up at 6. Or I went to bed at 10, I woke up at 5. Or I went to bed at 11 and I woke up at 5. Whatever it is, like, keep it consistent. And so you start with, hey, I'm getting 6 hours of sleep a night. It's not optimal, but at least it's consistent. And once you have something consistent in your life, then you have the power to change it. But if you're like, I am all over the map and I want to get 8 hours of sleep, it's like, well, you gotta start with something, a baseline. So those are my, I guess, 5 things. It's lift weights, full body, build muscle, start to walk more steps than you currently walk, eat more protein, a gram per pound of body weight, get more fiber in your diet, try and get north of 30 grams per day. If you're eating 10 grams per day, just go up by 5, then go up by another 5. If you're eating 20 grams per day, okay, you can go up by 5, 10, whatever. Try and move that number a little bit higher, because the foods that are full and rich in fiber are generally those high volume, low calorie foods, and they have a lot of health benefits to them as well. And then the last is dial in your sleep consistency. If you do all those 5 things in 2024, you will arrive at the end of the year and you will be like, whoa, I'm a different person, without question, if you're not doing them already.
There is so much to be said there. There's so many lynching points I could hop on, but just overall, it's the beauty in that approach is you're not you didn't mention restricting anything specific. Like
Yeah.
there is room to live your life when you take that approach and you have these consistent habits, because the biggest fear for people is giving up certain things, but when you take the approach of doing those 5 core things that we mentioned, one, the desire for those things is going to go down. Your ability to eat that whole pie of pizza is going to go down because you're going to be fuller and you're not going to have
Mm-hmm.
that desire. It's going to be easier to just have that one slice of pizza, and it just makes for a more holistic, long-term approach. It's not extreme in any ways. It gives you that wiggle room to have the consistency to do that for a long time.
Yeah, I agree. And that is certainly something that I've thought about a lot in coaching over my career. Is the best strategy is one of addition rather than subtraction when you're working with people.
That's interesting.
Come do more of this. Yeah, do more of that. Because if you do more of the good stuff uh, for long enough, you start to feel a particular way, and you have the internal motivation, desire to take out the bad stuff. Right? If I come in and I say, okay, hey, the first thing we're going to do is I'm gonna take away all the things that you really like right now. You're just like, fuck, this sucks. I'm really not into you. You're not my coach. It's like, hey, I just need you to throw away everything. It's like, yeah, it's like when someone's like, hey, man, you got to go on a detox. You got to cut out your coffee. It's like, coffee's like my favorite part of my day right now. Can we start somewhere else? um, I love that. Like, there's like a a real template audio that's like, you know, if you cut out coffee, by like whatever, like, you are guaranteed to be a grumpier person. It's like, you think they're gonna like say something like some great health benefits, like, if you cut out your coffee for 10 days, you are guaranteed to be a grumpy, angry, terrible friend.
You always get me wanting those like lattes and cappuccinos with your raw milk and your
Oh
nice
yeah.
espresso machine, dude. I'm
I'm
jealous.
having a little issue with my espresso machine right now. It's got some issues. I got to call like a maintenance company to come in. It's really bumming
Oh
me out.
no,
Ugh, it
that's
sucks.
so upsetting. So one
It's like
thing
a high performance car. It's like
it is.
things, it breaks and you're like, damn it, I got to call in a specialist for this. I don't have a high performance car. I don't drive a very fancy car at all. I drive my mom's the 2 or 3 vehicles prior to her current one I purchased from her.
And so, one thing I wanted to be sure to ask you was, so like I mentioned earlier, I have a few friends who are starting to get into the weightlifting game, and
Mm-hmm.
the one thing that multiple of them keep having an issue with, that I don't really remember ever having a problem with, is they can't activate certain muscles. Like um, during a chest day, they'll
Mm-hmm.
just get all triceps, and they can't
Mm.
activate that muscle. They can't really get a pump in certain areas.
Sure.
Um, so I guess that's an issue for a lot of people getting started that I wasn't really too aware of.
Yeah. Um, well, there's a couple ways to think about it. Number one, there's this idea of like muscle activation, like, oh, I gotta activate certain muscles. Um, it's a little misleading. I mean, muscles insert on your, you know, at different places on the body, and when those muscles lengthen or shorten, by moving a joint or moving two bones further apart or closer together, uh, muscles contract. I mean, that just happens. You know, the sensation of somebody feeling the muscle working is different. It's like, if you like if I stand up, my glutes are working. But someone's like, I don't feel my glutes. It's like, well, like they're not activated. It's like, well, they just haven't worked hard enough for you to feel the like the that the whatever, a burn or some sensation that is generally created by a couple things. You feel a muscle working when there's a lot of tension on that muscle. You feel that muscle working when you've done a sufficient number of reps under tension, where you start to get and produce these metabolites in the muscle, where they're like, you're working, so you're burning sugars to try and create more energy, ATP, so those muscles can contract and you get these, you know, cross, these muscle fibers that are shortening and lengthening. After a lot of that sugar burning up, you get maybe some lactic acid, you get you know, uh, some different pH changes in the muscle, and that feels like a burn. Um, those are the sensations that people, I think, equate to like, okay, my muscle's working. It's like, well, even if you're not feeling that, your muscle worked, you know. But it's good to feel that, because that's a sign. It's one sign that you're like pushing close to exhaustion, which is a place where muscle's gonna get stimulated and adapt and grow. So, if you're feeling like you're doing bench press, but it's like all I'm feeling is my triceps, it doesn't mean that your chest isn't working. It just means that your triceps are working harder, or they're weaker, or they're a limiter in this exercise for you. And every body, every human and their bodies, you know, will probably adapt and feel movements slightly differently. If your triceps are weak and you're trying to do a bunch of bench press and you're benching with a pretty narrow grip and you don't have great form, then every time you do a rep, there's a lot of stress on your triceps. You're not getting as much of a stretch in your pec, which is basically how much can I get my humerus to move away from my sternum, right? The more I stretch that, okay, the more stretch there is in my pec, then when I press up, that is going to shorten and I'm going to get a contraction. But if I'm pressing in a way where I'm not lengthening that as much, but I'm really putting a lot of lengthen or a lot of stretch into my tricep, then okay, my triceps are working. So like a close grip bench press versus a wide grip bench press. It's not as simple as just, do I go wide or do I go narrow? But it's like, how do you move your shoulder in these different ranges? And the problem, I think, I mean, this is a problem. I wouldn't even say it's a problem. It's something that you want to focus on when you're more of an intermediate advanced lifter. When you're a beginning lifter, it's just like, stick to the fundamentals, move the weight, and try and get stronger every single week. If you're just getting into training and someone's like, I'm not feeling my chest, I'd be like, I wouldn't sweat it. Like, go in and do bench press. Next week, try and do a little bit more weight than this week. The week after that, try and do a little bit more weight or a little bit more reps. You know, okay, if your triceps are limiting you right now, stick with it. After a month, your triceps are going to be better conditioned and you're going to be able to go up in weight. And at some point, you're going to be like, damn, my chest is growing. You know, it's just going to happen. And then make sure you're trying different exercises. So, like, don't just do the same bench press for chest, like, do a chest fly, do a cable chest press. You know, by changing the movement or the implement that you're using, you're going to start to feel different sensations. Um, and the sensations that you're feeling don't necessarily mean that they're not getting trained. Like, even if your triceps are going to failure before your chest is at failure, you still are getting a stimulus in your chest because
Hmm.
you're actually, I mean, you're performing, you know, adduction of the humerus, right? So, like, that's actually shortening the pectoral muscle under tension. Um, but it's often a matter of technique. It's often a matter of, you know, underdeveloped certain body parts that are maybe you know, limiting you, and and often it's, you know, exercise selection. It's like, I'm doing the there's an exercise that might be better for you to feel your chest working. Some
Hmm.
people, like, they do glute, uh not glute bridges, hip thrusts. This is a popularized movement for growing glutes. They feel their glutes like crazy. Some people do them and they don't feel their glutes at all. They just feel their back working.
Hmm.
But when they do deep squats, they feel their butt just gets super sore. So it's like, find the one that feels the best for you, and don't just assume because, like, the guy with the biggest chest in the gym is doing flat bench press, that that's what's going to work for you. Um, One tip for those individuals who might be feeling something like that is explore more dumbbells and cables as your implements, because when you're doing barbell stuff, um, there's a lot of compensation that can happen. And, you know, there's if you're relatively new and you don't have good body awareness and control of, you know, your movement patterns, you might find yourself in just some positions that don't work. If you have access to some machines, you know, play around with different machines and just see, like, what you know, which ones make you feel it in the place that you want to feel it.
I think that's perfect advice. It's funny because um, they say that the cable machine and certain dumbbell movements are the only time that they feel that activation, and then certain
Yeah.
times on like a chest press machine. But when they do barbell stuff, like you said,
Yeah.
that's where the overcompensation happens.
Yeah. And they can build a ton of muscle and strength with dumbbells and cables. Like, you don't need to barbell bench press
Absolutely.
ever to get a big chest, you know. It helps if you have good mechanics, but there's plenty of examples of people that don't. And to be honest, like, I find a lot of lifters, you know, later in their life, in their career, when they're like more advanced, they just, they're like, yeah, I'm done with the barbell because it doesn't put me in good positions anymore. Like, you know, now they become concerned about joint health and longevity, and cables and dumbbells just provide them a little bit more flexibility around what, however, how their body moves uniquely.
I think that's a perfect segue to functional bodybuilding because it's something you created your brand around. And one, I love that name, functional bodybuilding, because it combines, I think, what we're all trying to achieve, which is that aesthetic physique, but also having the freedom and the mobility to play sports and to be active and have that feel of safety within sports and just life in general. Uh, how does your approach differ, you think, from traditional bodybuilding? What are those biggest differences between the functional side of things versus uh, just the average way of lifting weights?
I would say that, um, you know, bodybuilding to me is the application of training principles to stimulate the most muscle growth possible. So hypertrophy is growth of muscle cells, and that is the goal. What can we do to make the muscles grow? And some of the methods for doing that are, I mean, there's lots of tried and true methods. You know, there are experts at that. There are professionals in the sport of that. Um, it's it's a science, it's a sport, it's a deep passion, and the methods that work there. It's like if one of the things I said is like what's going to give you the most bang for your buck is resistance training to build muscle, because muscle is going to give you the, the look, the function, and the metabolism that you want, then why would you not want to use the people that are best in the world at it to learn from and to apply principles, right? It's like if you want to build muscle, like if someone's like, I want to get toned, that is another way of saying I want to build muscle. Why would you go to somebody who's not an expert at building muscle to get toned? Why would you go to this is not a shot at Pilates, but like, mat Pilates, a lot of women will go and say, I do it because I want to get long and lean. And they're doing these like, long extended isometric holds, which can build strength and make you feel really good. But they're not like conducive to building muscle. Like that is not how you build. And like that, the science of hypertrophy doesn't make sense there. So, hypertrophy is bodybuilding, is that science. Now, if you look at somebody who has taken that to the extreme and built the most muscle on the human frame possible, and you evaluate how they move and their cardiovascular output, their work capacity, and the 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 breadth of their movement capabilities, like the skills that they have, uh, it's not exceptional, right? So like Chris Bumstead, who's like the best bodybuilder in the world, like his aerobic capacity is not great. It's not exceptional. He's got a sports background, so he's pretty athletic. But at this point, like, could he do very athletic things? No, because he's taken like he's taken the thing to the extreme.
Mm-hmm.
And when you take anything to extreme, you leave out the opportunity to do something else. Um, you know, could he perform high, like a wide variety of movements? Does he have the flexibility and the mobility to do that? Um, you know, the answer is like no, relative to other people. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, there's that. And then you look over at like, I come from a CrossFit background. It's like, what did CrossFitters do? Like, well, we had a tremendous amount of aerobic capacity, a lot of work capacity, like, so I could do a lot of work in a short amount of time, which requires, cardiorespiratory fitness on top of strength, on top of, muscle endurance. So all these like traits that lended themselves very well to CrossFit. But if you're an elite CrossFitter in the world, like you oftentimes, you'll have a lot of muscle, but you may also give up something by trying to be an elite CrossFitter, which is you're generally overstressed. You're generally you carry a lot of injuries regularly. So there's like a beat down and a burnout that happens. So like, how can I be like a good CrossFitter and have like the skills and the mobility and the range of motion and the capacity, the energy, like the ability to do work, and also have like the muscle building potential of a bodybuilder, but like essentially combine these things, right? I'm giving a super long-winded answer to what functional bodybuilding is, but this is kind of how I kind of see it. It's being a little bit of a jack of all trades, having the ability to, you know, understand how to build muscle, understand how to build aerobic capacity or work capacity, and then really maintain great health in your joints and mobility. And with those three sort of central concepts, what are the training methods that would get us that, would
Mm-hmm.
allow us to do that? And that's what I've been chasing for, you know, the better part of a decade now.
So those things, that would be, so obviously the traditional weightlifting, um, not putting yourself in situations that are going to either get you hurt or uh, just be too much load for the body. Still keeping that aerobic base and
Mm-hmm.
making sure we're getting our steps in and our our cardio up, and then it would be some of the um, like mobility side of things. What is that
Yeah,
piece of the
that
puzzle?
to me, that piece of the puzzle is exploring movement. So, it's like coming into the gym and squatting super heavy with the goal of like creating a lot of tension in the legs and the trunk so that you can, stimulate them to grow versus coming to the gym and performing, you know, a type of squat where I know you're not going to be able to squat a lot of weight. An example would be a Cossack squat. This is like an exercise where you kind of do like a lateral lunge. You go into like a deep squat on one leg. It's part mobility, it's part range of motion, it's part strength training, it's part unilateral. It's sort of like this yoga meets strength meets, kind of playtime stretching. Um, and if you ask me like, hey, what's the best way to build strength muscle in your legs, I would not, you're not seeing Chris Bumstead do Cossack squats to grow his quads, right? But I do a heavy squat or a heavy leg press, and then as my accessory movement, I go do
Mm-hmm.
Cossack squats. Okay, I'm still getting some muscle growth or stimulation, some strength benefits there, but I'm getting this like added mobility. I'm taking my hip through a really great deep range of motion. I'm maintaining health in my ankles and my knees and my hips and low back. I'm working on balance and stability. You know, um, there's there so there that's like you know movement quality, movement capacity, skill, and it's sort of like okay, well, if I dedicate to doing that, that's one exercise. I mean, you only got time to do, let's say, 6 to 8 exercises in the gym a day. So I've taken one and I dedicated to doing something that wasn't the best way to build muscle. It built other characteristics. And so it's a conscious choice to say, I have to fill this is my bucket. I only got these 6 to 8 exercises I'm going to do each day. There's a certain balance and a blend of how many I'm going to do that are here to like push my intensity the highest and how many are here to like explore my mobility and get me into new positions and work on my hip strength and my balance, and then which ones are here for aerobic work and capacity, you know and so it's this juggle of like there's only so many hours in a week to train. Where are you going to dedicate your time? If I just came in and I did heavy leg press, then heavy squats, then I did heavy lunges, and then I did heavy leg extensions, and that was all I did, I would build a ton of muscle. It would be super intense, and it would definitely move the needle. And then where in my training program am I adding in some of these other movements to help me maintain great range of motion, mobility, or like the alternative for somebody's like, oh, I'm going to go stretch an hour at home. It's like, okay, well, now you're just adding hours to your day to try and do it all. Yeah, when I trained for CrossFit, I trained 3 to 4 hours a day. I did an hour of weightlifting, Olympic lifting. I did, an hour and a half of just straight up cardio. I did gymnastics. I did all this, I stretched, like I did all the stuff, but nobody's got time for that,
Mm-hmm.
So how do we bring those things into, comprehensive training method and program? That's what functional bodybuilding is to me.
Yeah, I want to explore that concept of combining those two things. And I think the way I want to do it here is, um, you see this guy Chris Williamson, the host of Modern
Mm-hmm.
Wisdom. He's had a bunch of bodybuilders on, and he keeps asking them this question, which is, if you only had to do 10 exercises for the rest of your life, what would those 10 be? I think that would be a cool way to explore how you would think about that combination.
Yeah. I've heard him ask this question to bodybuilders before. um, Probably I would do I would guess like a Smith machine squat.
Love
I
that.
think that to me is a perfect blend of stability, but also like I know I can squat into deep positions and um, yeah, so I can maintain a lot of good mobility there. So that's my squat. Um, I would, for a press, it's a toss up for me, but I would probably go with like a dumbbell incline bench press.
Mm.
I
Nice.
love I I don't love barbell bench pressing. It doesn't work for me. But to complement that, I would actually be doing a because I was going to say dips, um, but I think I'm going to pull dips into a ring muscle up. So I'm going to do ring muscle ups because there's a pull and a push there, but the stability or the instability of the rings is such a powerful tool, and um, so strict ring muscle up.
With that, with the ring muscle ups, how much harder is doing a traditional muscle up on a like a traditional pull up bar
Yep.
versus the rings? Are the rings easier, harder?
If you're doing strict muscle ups where you're like not using kipping and momentum,
Mm-hmm.
I would probably I would say that the rings are probably easier just because
Seems
with
like it's
rings
easier
you
on the shoulders.
yeah, the rings you can just maneuver your body in between them, whereas with the bar you have to pull with so much speed and force that you can kind of like
Yep.
like arc around it. Um okay, so we're only at 3. I got to pick up the pace here. um I would probably put a for like a cardio tool, I would probably put the rowing machine in there. I think that that's a pretty powerful aerobic tool. Um, I would probably put the I probably put the Nordic bench in there as well. So Nordic hamstring curls. That would probably be my, like I know people love the seated hamstring curl for like growing their hamstrings, but I find the functionality and the strength development that would happen through the Nordic to be pretty. I mean, also I can do them fairly well, so I can use them in a hypertrophy setting too. And most people can if they just understand how to scale them. Um, I would. I'd like to have a row in there, like a weighted row. So probably like a seated cable row. I think. Um, I'm gonna rely on those rings for like all of my vertical pulling. So no lat pull downs, no strict
Mm.
pull ups. I'm just gonna be doing muscle ups for that. I'd probably get like a heavy sandbag that I could use for um like it's like a like it'd be kind of like combo good morning and like sandbag cleans over the shoulder.
Mm.
Um so
Interesting.
like that instead of a deadlift. Just because I could use that for a lot of conditioning work too. So this is kind of turning into like movements, but also implements that I want to have access to.
So we got 7.
We are at 7.
We're at 7, and we've hit
Um,
almost everything. We have back, we have chest, cardio, hamstrings, quads, glutes, back, kind of shoulders with the ring muscle up.
yeah, I was thinking about shoulders. Um, I might do a handstand push up. That's a pretty great shoulder developer
Oh
and
yeah.
something that again more just like I've got plenty of weighted implements already. Not need want to have some body weight implements. Um, guess where we at? We're at 8 now.
We're at 8.
What have I not hit?
Um, you have not hit calves, um, arms, obviously, all the other stuff. Um,
Yeah.
nothing isolation there.
Well, dips and rings, ring muscle
Yeah,
ups are
that
going to
hits it.
build the arms pretty good. Um, core I haven't really
Oh,
hit.
core.
Yeah, I think I like. I'd probably do like a stall bar hanging leg raise or
Mm.
like a hanging leg raise. I love those. and that's great for hip flexor strength as well. So it leaves me with one more thing. Gosh, if I like look downstairs, like what could I not live without?
Assault bike? You do a good amount of assault bike, right?
Yeah, that's I kind of went with the rower of like I don't want to take up two things with the cardio equipment. I don't know. There's something I would need to like. I want to have a kettlebell in
Mm.
there somehow, but it's like hard for me to pick like what's the move with a kettlebell. It's I feel like I should be able to do like a kettlebell complex with like clean and jerk and snatch. I think that would be good.
All encompassing. That's perfect. So we
Yeah.
got Smith machine, squat, which that Smith machine, dude, that thing's awesome, especially for bench press as well. Like if you want to do
Yeah.
barbell
Yeah.
with the incline, that thing's great. Dumbbell incline bench, ring muscle ups, rowing machine, Nordic hamstring curls, seated cable row, sandbag, hamstring or handstand push ups, stall hanging leg raise, and then a kettlebell circuit.
Yep.
That's it. That's pretty all encompassing.
Yeah.
Any
You get
mobility stuff you would want to throw on top of that?
Oh, yeah, I'd probably do the couch stretch every day. I would have some type of like thoracic spine mobility movement. Um, but I think if I do all those movements well, everything else is going to get sorted out.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Marcus, anything we haven't talked about today that you think is fundamental or just front on mind lately?
Um, no, we really hammered the those five kind of fundamentals of like what's going to give you the most bang for your buck in 2024. On the topic of the nutrition pieces, I think it's really important that on top of getting in your protein every day, that people have a big bolus of it for breakfast and for dinner. Those are the
Mm.
two most important places to hit your protein. And I've been challenging people with something I call the 50-gram challenge, which is getting 50 grams of protein before 10 a.m. So make your breakfast 50 grams of protein. And if you really actually try, it's kind of eye opening to people, like how much that actually looks like. But it has a huge it's huge benefit to starting your day that way. And I think if more people would commit to that one simple uh, thing, they would see dramatic impact. So I think we covered it, but that's another kind of measurable outcome that people could aim for.
Beautiful. You want to leave people with a challenge or something based off this episode? I feel like it was very action oriented. Um, what's that thing that you think people after this episode should go out and do?
Pick one of those five things that we talked about and commit to adding in at least one of them to your life for the next 30 days.
Beautiful.
If it's resistance train 3 days a week, full body, I've got the program for you. Persist, pump, lift 3 days a week, got that split. If it's walking, track your steps for 3 days and then try and add about 2,000 steps per day for the next 30 days to whatever your baseline is. If it's protein, eat a gram per pound of body weight every day and try and get 50 grams to start the day. If it's fiber, start eating more than 30 grams of fiber each and every day. Try and get it from whole foods as best you can. If it's the sleep, dial in your consistency for 30 days. Whenever you go to bed, whenever you wake up, no missed days, same time. That's it.
I think that's a great way to finish this conversation here. Marcus, thank you so much for doing this today. This was a lot of fun, and like I told you before we hit record, this is an episode that I've been looking forward to doing for a while. So I appreciate you taking the time.
I love the way the conversation went and appreciate you having me. And yeah, people are always welcome to reach out to me. I'm on all the social media platforms, but Instagram's where I engage with most people. So feel free to DM me there at Marcus Philly and love to connect with new people.